Good evening and welcome to the Brain Trust here on the Academy, a live stream brainstorming session for social and philosophical problem solving. Tonight's subject is race relation, and joining us to discuss this on our panel tonight are Liberal Penguin, Tyler Preston, and of course Eggman the Nosferatu. Liberal, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself real quick?
Let me introduce myself real quick. Also, we just got a new join.
Welcome.
Hi. I do stuff.
Hey.
I'm cool, and that's about it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Welcome, Chair View.
Thank you. What is going on tonight?
Everybody's favorite crippled cockatoo.
And of course, we got Tyler Preston here.
Okay, on my YouTube channel, I basically just talk about race relations. I talk about politically correct climates, that kind of stuff. And I've been going for YouTube for, I think, at least, oh my god, how many years? Like 4 years or something. And if you like my stuff and I guess this conversation, you can check out my channel at TylerPreston20.
Yeah. Thanks, Tyler. Hopefully we'll get Ren Michaels in here later, who's another YouTuber. Tonight's subject is race relations. We're coming up with the ideas for how we can repair some of the relationships between the different races in the United States. I'm just going to take... anybody got ideas right off the bat?
Oh, for starters, we could probably have less articles just, shaming white people and, trying to demonize anybody who is black to have free thought. Just earlier, just a few minutes ago, I saw an article that was written by The Root. And what the article said was that if somebody were to, call themselves a free thinker, they're actually being controlled by the white man. And so I think for starters, we should probably have less articles that actually race-based people and actually try to make conflict between the two races.
So, can I respond to that with a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah. Not a debate at all.
We're all adding on. We're all just adding the ideas here, man.
Part of what he said is something I think that's actually a really big deal, because he just said conflict between the two races. So, number one, if you think that race is like a valid term, which I understand it is, like if you want to shortcut a lot of conversation, but I mean, even then there's still way more than two. There's this weird sort of manufactured, and I don't really know who's manufacturing it. Some people blame the Jews, some people blame media who want to make money, some people blame, white nationalists, some people blame black supremacists for the start of this whole thing, whatever. But it's really kind of weird to think that there's this big fight or contention amongst, what you would call whites and what you call blacks. But I do think it is important, and I think that whether perceived or true, that something like that has been ongoing for a few years now, and is part of what inevitably led to Trump winning the 2016 nomination.
I don't know. I think redirecting media to put more positive spin would be a good direction to take.
But that doesn't sell. It doesn't sell.
I know it doesn't sell, but
that's the issue.
It doesn't sell at the moment, but I think that's because nobody's trying it. Think about this show. Like, for some reason, we did a pilot on 2 hours notice last week, and we actually generated a pretty good deal of interest. And I think a large part of it's because we went in a positive direction. And just think, if one network dedicated, say, 2 hours to nothing but positive stories, and just saw how the ratings went, I don't think it would actually go bad. I think people would turn it on in shock. They'd be like, "Oh my God, you don't know what's going on in NBC. Turn it on, turn it on. What's going on? Look, it's all good stories."
But that's not how Fnords work, man. The Fnords are meant to panic you.
Yeah, like every time there's just a story about a conflict between people, it always will make the headlines, and people will probably be more interested than positive stories.
Here,
Yeah.
For a good example, let me hijack. Let me sit on Tyler and explain something that we talked about on the fake podcast, and I don't think we went into enough detail on it. But so you have Waffle House now. So I imagine everyone is aware of what sort of happened here. A drunk woman came in with food from somewhere else had asked for silverware, was told she needed to pay 50 cents for it, goes, hey, I didn't have to pay 50 cents for it yesterday, starts freaking out, starts yelling, starts swearing, says she has a gun, and says she's going to light up the place. Police are called. This woman resists arrest, is torn to the ground, and, is exposed, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the one where the breast was hanging out, right?
Yes, yeah. Now, here's the thing. If you realize this thing in context, it's actually really not that crazy. A woman 4 days after a Waffle House gets shot up, police on the radio are listening and they're hearing and they're like, yeah, we have a drunk woman. She's saying she's going to shoot up this place, and every single cop probably who responded to that is like, fuck me, we cannot make a big story out of this. Like, I guarantee you there wasn't a single cop going to that in the context of the Waffle House shooting 4 days prior going, I really hope this blows up into a national news story.
Well, here's the funny thing is, I promise you that there were probably 7 or 8 other cop-related shootings throughout the nation. On that
this one wasn't even a shooting.
Just on that day. No, like, I'm saying that there were shootings on that day. Everywhere, all across the nation. But you didn't hear about them. Because, we should go into that. You can't get from the right angle.
We should go into that in a second, because I think that's a hugely overblown thing as well. But I guarantee you, it was not on any of these cops' minds.
I'm not saying they're unjustified. I'm saying that they were shooting. I'm just saying that a gun went off, and it was cop-related.
So these 3 cops respond to a woman, and probably at a certain point identified that she's in a very skimpy dress, probably doesn't have a gun. But she is still drunk and disorderly, and needs to be removed from the premises.
That's why you don't fight the police. You just turn around, you put your hands behind your back, you let them cuff you, and you just shut your mouth, go to jail, argue your case in court. Because the police aren't there to win. The police are going to win that battle. If you want to win the war, shut your mouth and go fight your battle in court.
Yeah. But she resists arrest, gets taken to the ground, Booby comes out, somehow becomes important to the story, and then all of a sudden, this story gets racialized. For no reason. Literally, like, it was not... Yeah, if you think of intentions, it was not 3 cops walking in there, and they're like, you know what we are? We're racist cops. And what we're going to do, we're going to show this woman's titties to the internet. This is the mission, guys. We're going in. Are we all tracking? 3, 2, 1, knock, go.
Oh, wait. Who's on the cell phone? Who's on the camera phone? Sorry. No, I don't really think this is really productive, though. Let's get back to how to repair race relations.
No. I'm saying, why are we racializing? Why are we racializing nothing stories?
I definitely agree with that, and I think it's definitely piggybacking off Tyler. But I think it's like you guys kind of pointed out earlier. There's not a lot we can do with the media. There's not a lot of solution there because the media is always going to respond to whatever sells.
The point he's making is pretty valid. Where we racialize everything now, especially like I don't know. Black Lives Matter in particular does that, but there's other people who do it too, where it's clearly not even about race. Like there'll be a shooting or something, and it has nothing to do with the dude's race. He just happens to be a black man.
Or a couple of years ago, there was Cecil the Lion getting shot, and everybody was mad because an act of poaching was more valued than black lives.
Yeah, and apparently there was also outrage over Harambe too when he died, and some people were.
Oh, I think that was more of a joke than anything.
Yeah,
but I mean, another good one. If we're going to the news, and this isn't something that was racialized by the news, this was something that was racialized by everyone else, and it turned out to be extremely wrong. Toronto, a couple weeks ago, guy pile drives over 8 people. The dude's a little bit brown, and I mean, even to my fault, I naturally assumed I was like. For the first second, I was like, probably Muslim when I first heard the story. Yeah. Running over people with a car, dark tinted skin. That's probably the reason why he did it. And this isn't so much race relations, but it does tie into this thing that we sort of presuppose a lot of things.
He was Armenian, by the way.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was that tendency for the truck of peace to be driven by
it was for a while. That was a very solid trend, and we all think via stereotypes a lot of times in order to save time. Turns out this guy is a fucking virgin MRA who idolized the Isla Vista attack in California and was pretty much mad that he wasn't getting pooned, so he decided to kill a bunch of people.
But now There are incels though who aren't totally freaking insane.
Correct. I know. We're not shitting on incels here. What we're saying is that if we want to fix race relations, what we number one need to do is, and if Dolphin is just giving up the hat and saying we can't do anything to the media, which I absolutely think you can boycott media platforms. You can say you are unjustifiably racializing the situation.
It's not a racial thing, but look at David Hogg, for example. I mean, talk about boycotting media. I mean,
when CNN's ratings hit an all-time low, they did a deal with all the national airports to get the ratings back up, so the airports would show CNN. Like the news media, as far as that end goes, the mainstream, I don't think it's going to die anytime soon. I think it's going to blow out its savings staying alive.
Well, corporations in general have a survival instinct just like people do. So, I mean, granted, no matter what happens, they're going to try to fight back. But, I mean, can you, in a certain invective, eventually draw a case, a civil case? I think you can. If you feel that an organization is inciting hatred, towards whatever, that there could eventually be a civil case there pending enough evidence.
I think that's a really good argument. I think that a civil action lawsuit against certain media platforms would be in order.
Right, but can you win it? That's the question.
Well, you need to.
Regardless of whether you can win it or not, you don't necessarily need a payout. What you really need is for the world to see that the people do not like divisive media. That people will appreciate the kind of media that tells us that we should be together. I remember in the 90s, that's all it was. Everything was inclusive. Everything was bringing people together. And
I disagree with that.
Well, a lot of it was. And yeah, there were some hardliners still stuck in the old media during the 90s, but most of the 90s was like everything, all the colors disappeared. So, and the media was great. It kind of brought us all together.
All right, and it appears we have at least one more person of color.
Let's let her.
Not a token anymore. There are two of them. Non-token status achieved.
Hey, we also have a walking impaired and a really ugly army guy.
That's true. So
yes,
I was gonna.
Probably token female though.
Oh, that's true. She is a female, so still a token. Tyler, you're out of luck.
Whose channel are we on, by the way, so I can find the watch?
It's on the Academy Debate Show.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was.
So the Dolphin, I do want to say the reason why I disagree with you is because I actually remember growing up in the 90s and listening to the news. And do you know what it was? And it might have absolutely been reality.
For me, not the news. Not the news. The news was quite divisive.
Well, I was going to say it was like
it was terrible in the 90s.
Here was your local news in the 90s. A black man, 5'4" to 6'1", weighing somewhere between 140 pounds and 210 pounds, has robbed a store today. Next up, a black man, somewhere between 5'4" and 6'1", weighing somewhere between 120 and 190 pounds, has killed someone today. So I mean, trying to say that like the media hasn't always sort of.
But see, I'm talking about the cultural media like television, media like movies, all the. All the first kisses had already been done. All the first relationships had already been done. Like at that point, we were free and clear to just have media where people, there were plenty of black people, white people, brown people, green, blue, orange. It was fine.
I have a question. Are there any non-media issues to be addressed?
Oh yeah, I actually had a really good point, but I was kind of holding on to it. A nice group, so.
I mean, we haven't heard Tyler or Rin really speak, so what do you two think?
Ladies first.
Oh, that's Tyler. You go first.
No. I'll just wait after you.
Wow. You guys are really shocking.
Okay, stop showing up the white people with politeness. Okay.
That's our thing. Damn it.
Well, this is what they we get accused of anyway. I mean,
you stop white-splaining to people.
Exactly. We're trying to avoid accusations of white-splaining. Fuck, man.
I do like the joking attitude that that the people seem to have taken towards all this crap media.
But besides the media, for real, besides the media, I think in terms of like the white supremacists and the alt-right rising, I think ultimately I wouldn't want to say it's like entirely the left fault. I mean, it might be some aspect that might influence them to do it, but ultimately I think when they started to post their ideas and people started to latch on to these ideas, it started to grow. And I think it didn't really help that people hit Richard Spencer. I think it was like an Antifa guy who hit him. And I don't think just making him into a victim actually helped the situation and actually made people more curious about their ideas. And so I think outside the media, like the alt-right seems to be a problem too.
I would agree, but I think that they're only ever going to go so far as maybe 1 or 2% at the absolute peak if they ever grow that big. I like they're just too radical for people.
You're off by like 1%, but yeah, you're not far off.
They're not. I mean, honestly, they're never going to be.
But on the same,
and any rational person is not going to listen to them any more than they would a radical leftist like David here.
Yeah, well, but I'm not even a radical.
I'm messing with
you. In the same sense, about the same percentage of the left appreciate Antifa or think their ideas are good as the right thinks that the alt-right is good.
It's really encouraging to hear that, by the way.
But which is nuts because when you go onto online spheres, you start to believe that this is all there is. It's Antifa versus the alt-right, and somehow I have to choose a side between Nazis and people who are punching people for speech.
Let me bring this in a new direction. Let me ask you guys how we feel, because we're talking about the United States here, and something we have in the United States is Black History Month. How does everybody in here feel about
it? Personally, I think that there's really no need for us to have a month celebrated simply for like Black people. It's kind of like the same kind of Morgan Freeman approach, where I think like the best way to stop making things racist is by stop talking about race all the time. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm also not in favor of Black History Month. I think that we should just have, history. We're just it's just history. We don't need a specific month for Black people. Not only that, but I mean, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but sometimes I do live streams with modeling. And sometimes we discuss on whether or not we should even have history, because it seems like it keeps being edited, like on whoever, like if we have majority Republican history books could be edited a certain way, but if it's majority people to the left, it could be like white people are racist in a history book, and Black people are slaves, and history book could be written a certain way for a certain narrative.
I think you bring up an interesting point. It's something I was thinking about earlier, is that we've almost developed this cultural mindset where white people are and always have been slavers and Jim Crow, and Black people are and always have been, oppressed and enslaved. And I think that continually pumping that narrative out there is really harmful.
Indeed, like I think that there's a lot of history that people don't tend to explore besides that. Like there's obviously history where like you could name any sort of group throughout history, and at one point they have been enslaved. And so I also don't like the idea that like people think that Black people were the only ones being enslaved when other people have also been enslaved throughout history.
Ireland.
Well, I mean, if we want to talk about Ireland, I mean, there is an Irish American Heritage Month.
Yeah, but
I mean, and there's also like a Deaf History Month, and there's like an Indo-Pacific.
I don't like the
and
idea
there's
of history month.
A national American. Yeah, I mean, I do think it's kind of silly, but what is?
Let me ask you guys, because Ren and Tyler, who are both Black, both expressed a desire not to have Black History Month. But let me ask you this: we have Oktoberfest, and we have St. Patty's Day, and now Americans really shouldn't like the Germans. We did fight massive wars with them, but if you go to Oktoberfest, all that's kind of forgotten. And if you really think about
Oktoberfest isn't a nationally recognized.
I know, but it's a cultural thing. That you understand what I'm saying? And then if you go to, everybody's Irish on St. Patty's, no matter how much you hated us in the past.
Everyone's black on Martin Luther King Day.
I got a little bit of an issue with
my question is, how do you feel about Black Culture Month?
How do you define it really though? Like, here's the thing. I want to say something before you moved on from that she mentioned the news thing or the history thing where you just call it history. The problem with that is these activist people won't let you. If you say, oh, we're going to teach history and the book happens to be written by a white dude, they'll say,
it's whitewash.
Yeah, we shouldn't cover history with any white dudes in it. It's like,
now you're speaking of a minority.
Now, if you want to know what Black Culture Month, by the way, would look like, you basically say, okay, let's have first of all, it's going to happen in the summer. It's got to happen in the summer. You can't have it in the winter and on the shortest month. What?
Well, there's a problem with it because when it comes to Oktoberfest, it's about like everybody participating in German culture. You can't go and say this is cultural appropriation, that is cultural appropriation.
No, they want you to come. They want you to, hey, come here, be part of our culture. They're inviting. It's very inviting.
Yeah, I mean, if you see a black person in lederhosen, you're not going to walk up to them and say...
And be like, hey, you don't belong here. No, absolutely not.
I've got a question, though.
You'll probably hand them a beer and ask them if they've tried the sausage on a stick yet.
I've got a question, and it's clearly a joke, but my question is, so if you have Black Culture Month, if you invited Gallagher to the celebration, would that be racist?
I don't get it.
He smashes water.
Oh, yeah, no. I think
we're old.
I think you're a little racist for saying it, but I'll let it slide.
That's why I said it was a joke.
Can we actually address what racist means as well? Because I think it's really important. I think that a lot of people assume talking about race makes you a racist. No. Racism is the inherent belief in one's superiority. I mean, or one's tribe's superiority.
I have difficulty with that because that definition you gave is essentially the definition of supremacy. You know what I mean? Racism is hate.
That's pretty much what it is, though.
No,
you can be racially insensitive, and that's not
look. Appeal the dictionary, buddy. I'm kind of agreeing with Chair here on this one. That sounds more like supremacy to me. I think racism is when you treat people differently because their skin is a different color.
Basically, that's it.
That's what it means to me.
Okay, so racism, from the dictionary, appeal to dictionary. Prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based upon the belief that one's own race is superior.
Okay, so I would say
that's one of several.
I don't think it needs to be based. I don't think it needs to be based on any belief. I think it's just because if your intent, like if your motivation for treating somebody differently is they're different than me, then I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, no, that's just bigotry, though. So, from the ADL, which is like literally, the most forefront of all this crap. But racism is the belief that a particular race is superior or inferior to another, that a person's social and moral traits are predetermined by his or her inborn biological characteristics. Racial separatism is the belief, most of the time based on racism, that different races should remain segregated and apart from one another.
I don't know. See, like, I don't see... I think that we have an American race here. I think that at this point, we should be gray. Like,
no, I mean, in order to tackle racism, you sort of have to define it, though, first. I mean,
I think everybody could agree that the prejudice and power definition is wacky. So
yeah, that's
I'm the libtard guy here, and I don't buy that shit.
With that definition, since we had that definition kind of has both of our answers in it, could we say that there's different levels of racism, or?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's racism on a spectrum, but here,
we shouldn't have invited a liberal. I knew it.
No, but I mean, here, hold on, watch this.
Because you have white nationalism, which is not quite racist, and then you have
here. I mean, and here's a good one. And
I think white nationalism is kind of racist, but
it's on the borderline to me. It's right there. It's like right.
No. It's on the other side of the. It's on the other side of the border.
It's in Mexico, buddy. It's not even in Tijuana. It's in. Veracruz. I don't even know if that's
yeah.
Let's let Tyler or Rin speak, please.
As far as like the spectrum of racism, I think there's an obvious difference between somebody just absolutely hating somebody, and then like the calm silly type of races.
Yeah.
Here, I have a question for Tyler. Can you answer this?
Okay, sure.
And this is going to go probably. I'm going to go to the peak of what is traditionally considered racism.
Okay.
There is a girl that likes Nick Fury, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she paints her face up black, puts on an eye patch, puts her hair up in a beret, and she goes out and trick or treats. Okay. Now, when we contrast that against a person who puts on actual blackface with like the big old white lips from the 1940s that were inherently demeaning and stuff like that, can we delineate between these two and understand that one isn't racism, it's appreciation, and one is, whether or not it's racism, it's extremely demeaning and mocking?
Yes, there's a difference between those two, because I think the intent actually matters, because in one of those scenarios, basically the white person who was trying to be in blackface with the big lips, he has some sort of prejudice for his motivations, whereas the girl wants to appreciate Nick Fury. But even then, I think Nick Fury was a white guy before he was black.
I've only seen him black in the comics, but I'm not really a huge comic book guy. You're making me now have to look this up.
Nah, he was actually white. Tyler's right.
Well, what if the person just appreciates Samuel L. Jackson's take?
Yeah, I gotta say, man, like, I've been a huge fan of the Avengers for years, since I was a kid. And when I saw Samuel L. Jackson in that role, I was like, fuck, they're gonna have to redraw all the comics, because he owned it. It was like he is Nick Fury. So,
but the point,
they have started to redraw them, by the way.
Of course. But I think the point remains the same. Like, the one is based upon prejudice, the other is not. So I think there's a difference.
So intent counts. That's the big thing.
That's the point behind it all. I think if your intentions are or your motivations are, look, they're different than me and I have to treat them different. Then how do we get the posterity of America to care about intentions as opposed to just gaining instant celebrity and virtue signaling by calling stuff that is irrelevant to call out?
That's kind of hard to answer, because it ultimately comes down to freedom of choice. Like, if people want to choose to be outraged over like one of those scenarios, no matter what the intent is, like, I guess there's no way to stop them from doing it. It's gonna sound a little bit downer, but like, I can't really think of any scenario where you can change people's mind.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, because I just want to clarify. Did you just ask in a roundabout way, how do you get people to want to be good? I mean, because essentially that's what I heard. How do you get people to want to be good?
Here's the thing, though, and I genuinely believe not all these people. Did you just say these people? No, but I mean, like the people that are going out there and they're getting super outraged over some of these things. I think that generally these people, for the most part, do think they're being good. They think they are helping. So how do we explain to them that they are not helping?
Basically, just have conversations, like having these hangouts, and just invite them on and just chat about differences and find common ground.
As a liberal, I think you have the easier job here, because I would argue that to go after progressives and shake them and say, look, I'm a liberal, you're going too far, is a little easier than me wanting to go over to a bunch of alt-right guys and be like, hey, I'm a conservative, you're going to... No, I really don't want to do that.
They might shoot you or something. At least I'm just gonna get my Twitter taken down.
You're gonna get your Twitter taken down, and maybe
might lose my job.
Somebody might cry.
Yeah,
might have some woman crying, but
they wouldn't shoot you, but they would say, oh, you just call everybody you disagree with Nazi.
Oh, they wouldn't shoot me either. They drag me behind their truck for 10 miles or some shit.
There's actually been a pretty decent uptake in alt-right violence over the last 2 years.
Really?
Yes.
I have not noticed.
To include like murders and stuff like that. Yes. Mother Jones, whether or not you disagree with the outlet or not, has a pretty good record of all the deaths from the alt-right over the last 2 years.
They do.
Okay, I'll cede that.
You know what? Alex Jones has a pretty awesome. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, they're like sourced and stuff like that.
Like, didn't Kanye West was supposed to be like on the Alex Jones show tonight or something?
I don't know.
Yeah, I did hear about this.
To be honest, I'm Alex Jones averse. When I hear his voice, it really hurts.
I actually predicted yesterday that what was going to come out about Kanye trying to explain what he was trying to say, and what he was trying to say very poorly was he was trying to make a similarity to being in mental slavery or mental bondage.
He wants people to think for themselves.
Yeah, but that was a bad way of doing it, though.
Dude, yeah.
He wants it, like, if you look at his actual statements, basically what he's saying is, I want people to think for themselves. I like Donald Trump. I'm not an asshole. Don't hate me just because I like Donald Trump, and don't think I'm an asshole just because I like Donald Trump.
But didn't he correct himself and say that he said, like, that slavery was a choice for white people?
All right, so Ren's having technical difficulties. We love you, sweetie. Go ahead and catch a night off, and we'll talk to you later.
She doesn't like the environment, but too many crackers around
penguins.
Here. Yeah,
you're back to token status, Preston.
Sorry. Congratulations. Pardon me. That was DeRay Mickelson who said that slavery was a choice for white people.
Yeah, that is just very stupid.
Tyler, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
If Kanye was white, would he still have a job?
He probably would not.
If Kanye was white, he would not have had a job to begin with.
Wait, Kanye's not white?
Kanye is pretty talented, but he would not have a job anymore. I mean, you
understand what I'm saying is, like, Kanye as a white man could not break into that scene the way he did. He could not do that.
Yeah, you could.
I don't think you could, because like Kanye was like the intellectual black man.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Drake did. So
or at least he thought he was. He was confident enough.
No, I don't think Kanye has ever been seen as the intellectual black man ever by anyone. Tyler, can I either get a you're wrong or you're
I mean, I don't really follow Kanye West, so I don't really care about these popular celebrities. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's basically just doing it to rack up controversy points.
That's exactly what it is. He is trying to sell his next CD. That is the complete extent of what Kanye is doing and why he's doing it.
Well, I still like Candace Owens. I'm going to throw that out there. I still like the way she thinks. You don't have to think like they tell you to think.
Yeah.
Like, look, think about it this way, David. What they're saying is you don't have to think the way that you're expected to think. Think about how the media expects black people to think, right? Now, just for a second, let's step outside that. Think how the media expects white people to think. Imagine if the country actually was like that. There would be no black people left.
Well, to a certain degree, I think that that does happen. I think that the media. Oh no. I mean, I'm not even talking about just only the media. I'm also talking into YouTube channels and a little bit of social media response. But there's a lot of people that originally sort of liked Trump. And I think that he's a necessary topic to bring up when we discuss something like this. But necessarily like Trump in the beginning just because he was different and he shook things up. And then what happened was there was a lot of alt-right support for this. And then what happened was...
He denounced them, didn't he?
No, not really.
Yeah, he did.
No, not really.
Well, here's the thing: is Trump can denounce people and nobody accepts it. They're like,
I remember
guys and nobody cares.
I remember seeing a video compilation somewhere on YouTube. I think it was like, I don't know how many X years he has denounced white supremacists, but I saw like a video where he just denounced people like David Duke a lot.
Yeah, if you look at his history before even running, like he gets awards.
Well, sure, but we're not talking about this. We're talking about campaign trail. Because this is the time frame we're talking about.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. If David Duke logged onto my YouTube channel and got me 2,000 subscribers, I'd probably just talk shit to them. But then again, I'm not running for president.
I do have a place where I'm going with this, and I'm not putting the blame here on the right so much.
But it wouldn't be my fault that David Duke sent a bunch of people to my channel.
No, I agree. Although there's some of the rhetoric that was sort of attractive and stuff like that. But either way, there was a lot
build
of people.
The wall.
What's up?
Build the wall? Mexico has a southern wall.
Oh, no. I'm talking about like rapists, drug dealers. They're not saying their best, stuff like that. But either way, what happened was there was a lot of people that were sort of just anarchists in the way that they wanted to vote, or they were trolling online and stuff like that. And then, yes, a lot of them did get called just flat out Nazis and stuff like that. And I think at a certain point, a lot of the white male population in the U.S. just got so used to being called Nazis. And when I say a large population, I'm talking about a very specific fringe. But they just decided they didn't care anymore. That, okay, well, I guess if you're going to call me a Nazi either way, I mean, I guess I'll just start change my account to Good Goy and put swastikas in my background and stuff like that. I mean, and that has happened. That's happened in a big way.
Yeah.
So you think they're fake Nazis? You think they're just trolling? They're just LARPing?
Do I think most of the alt-right could ever take a minority, put them on their knees, and shoot them in the back of their head? No fucking way. No. These are pussy anonymous faggots on the internet.
You know what? We agree for once. I'm sorry. Actually, that's like 6, isn't it? Shit.
We had a whole hangout the other day, and we.
I know.
I don't think so.
I know. If I forget all that stuff, you won't date me anymore.
But I mean, I do think, and I will cap this out, and I want to shut it for a little bit. But I do think one of the big things when we discuss race relations is that 2 years ago, this topic would have been entirely, how do we bring, quote unquote, Black Americans back to feeling like they're part of America. And I do think that as of now, another very, very important part of this conversation is how do we bring, white Americans to feel like they're back to being part of America? Because I do think it isn't a huge slide off, but I mean, you only need a relative minority to really shake things up. And I think there's a lot of these, I'm going to use like terms that I would be made fun of for, but economically disenfranchised people, or people that need to have some sort of enemy fixture, something to fix upon. Some people that need to blame their problems on something and they can't think of anything other than, minorities or Black people and stuff like that. These people have, I don't know if they've grown, but they've become more visible and they've become more agitated. And we do need to find a way to sort of quell that, and we need to find a way to bring them back to center.
And it's more than just blacks and whites. There's actually now a significant Hispanic set of grievances along similar lines.
Come on,
let's discuss one topic.
They especially seem to.
We're definitely going to need to have a part 2 on this, and I want Thorn to be here because she is of mixed race, and she would definitely be able to talk about that in a unique perspective. But let's stay with the black and white dichotomy for just a moment, or at least for this show while we can.
See, you're fueling. No, I'm
Look, talking about race, as you pointed out earlier, is not being racist. Tyler, can I ask you, as a black man living in like Minnesota, where there's like two other black people?
No, I live in Maryland.
Oh, so there's 3 other black guys. Excellent.
You realize Baltimore is in Maryland, right?
Yeah, there's Baltimore.
Yeah, Dolphin knows nothing about Maryland, obviously. Have you ever been?
Yeah, I've been to DC, and I didn't leave the bus station, and it gave me a really bad impression of DC.
So DC is technically not in Maryland.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So you've never been in Maryland. That's what we're getting from this. Okay.
Never. I spent 2
That was
years.
sly though. That was very sly.
2 years in Pennsylvania, and I get a feel for that particular state.
They're both cold. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I sat on
Makes
a
sense.
radiator. It was nice. But as a personal, as a black man going into white areas, do you ever feel nervous or weird? Do you like look up and go, "Oh crap, there's a white dude"?
No, like throughout my life, I never, felt like I was intimidated by any race. When I went to, of course, elementary school, middle school, high school, like I went to schools where it had people from different backgrounds, and so I'm kind of used to seeing people who are not like me, and we can get along just fine.
So Tyler, I have a question for you.
So actually, placeholder. Actually, I'll let David finish his question.
Just quick question with that, because I think a lot of this, and it was a great question, Dolphin. Like, hey, you're walking down the street. Are you scared of something? Okay, Tyler. So we're gonna take the same thing and we're gonna like do a little bit more with it. Okay, you ready?
Sure.
All right. So you're walking down the street. It's 11 o'clock at night. Under the spotlights, 20 feet in front of you, you see 5 dudes. They're all at least 5'10", some of them up to 5'4". You can see visible swastika tattoos on their necks, and they are wearing bulky jackets.
Fuck, I turned around.
Do you cross the street?
I fucking crossed the street. I think everybody here.
I was white and I'd cross.
I think Chair jumps out and runs across. The street.
Me personally, I don't try to go near like white supremacists or like the KKK.
No. I mean, I'm saying in that specific situation, do you cross the street?
No, I will not cross the street.
Man, see, Tyler has more balls than all of us because
honestly, I would look at my watch and I would look around and be like, "Where the fuck am I? How the fuck did I end up where I'd see dudes with swastikas on their arms?"
There is a point to this. Is that there is a very big difference between you're walking down the street and you see 5 guys, sagging pants. It's at night. Tattoos all over, and you're walking down, same time you see 5 guys, whatever color, in suits, and they're sitting there joking about like girls at the bar they just came back from.
Are they Italian?
Huge difference.
All right, 5 guys in hoods, and they all turn and stare at you as you approach.
All right.
I mean, this is baseline.
I'm just saying.
This is baseline threat analysis.
Yeah.
This is what we all do because we have a desire to survive. We conduct threat analysis. So what we do is we take things previous to us, previously known, and then we template it over what we are seeing. And we do some probabilities about whether you're going to live or die, and then you react accordingly.
How does this help with race relations?
Like,
it needs to be understood in a lot of these terms where people are talking.
Yeah, actually, I want to elaborate a little bit on this because I've actually seen an example of this quite recently. There was a video on Twitter that dude uploaded because he was chasing an Asian woman across down the street because she'd crossed the street to get away from him, and he was black. It was in Britain, and he basically followed her to her doorway.
Okay, there's also
as a way to prove that she was racist.
What the?
Yes.
So this person is trying to scare the living shit out of her to prove she's racist.
Yes. Yeah.
You know
and
how
it was late at night and shit too.
You know you can fix race relations. Don't ever do that ever, no matter what.
That's like the worst idea. That is literal race baiting.
There was like some story I remember reading a long time ago, but basically I think it was, I forgot the guy's name, but he was a black guy. He went to I believe many different parts where the KKK was there. and he actually managed to deconvert all the people within the KKK to better race relations. I forgot the guy's name.
You're talking about a person who was in, or are you talking about the same guy that was on Sam Harris's one of his last like 10 podcasts?
I'm not sure if he was
like Christian Ciccarello.
I'm not sure what the name is. I could probably double check right now.
Heads up, guys! We have a new contender, and we have replaced our token woman. Welcome to the stream, Thorn.
Thanks. Are you talking about the guy that basically dedicated his life to converting clan members?
Yes.
Hey,
Oh,
I
yeah.
can look him up.
Well, I can't remember his name. I did a video on him ages ago.
Anyway, real quick, back on Black Culture Month. I would think that the best idea for how that would look would be to pick a nice long month in the summer and tell Black people, this is your culture month. Let's throw a festival. And then if you want to see what it looks like, you go buy a ticket and go to it, like Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
Oh, are we going to remove every other history month as well?
Yeah, I'm totally down for that. I don't want
okay
Irish. I don't want Irish History Month.
Yeah, I know. I always thought like blank history month was kind of dumb. Can't it just all be regular history?
Yeah, look, instead of history, why don't we have Culture Month? If you really want to celebrate something,
I'm with Morgan Freeman.
Well,
Just
that's why
make it all
some of
regular
them.
history.
That's why some of them are called heritage months, and some of them are called history months. So I mean, like
Hey,
heritage is sort of like that cultural appreciation month. But I mean, you can really limit that down to a day.
I demand Cripple History Month. Okay.
How about we?
Chair. There is actually like a Deaf History Month, just so you know.
Yeah.
So,
what? I didn't hear
there's
you.
a form.
See, we were gonna have a huge event chair, but we couldn't get a permit for a ramp, so
Darn.
So we've got a really good question from Placeholder in the chat that I've been waiting on.
Okay.
He asks, why do people care about race? Why can't we just see each other as people?
I think that we have to, as a lot of the people have been arguing tonight, we have to get over the concept of race as a thing.
You do have to realize though that there's a culture there's some cultural things I guess that but acknowledge you can't be when you say you're colorblind you can't be completely colorblind because you're obviously gonna see that people are different, but I'm just
well we can all
how we embrace those differences. You know?
Our brain is hardwired to see differences in things.
I think when people use colorblind, it's basically just to say that it's not literally they don't see color, but try to judge people as individuals.
Yeah, that's what I mean when I say it.
You know what my suggestion is? We should make it a mandatory surgery at birth to strip the ocular nerves that allow people to see colors.
I think that is an
choose the
absolutely terrible idea.
That is terrible.
You'd still be able to tell the difference, by the way.
If you weren't running the stream, I would kick you for that.
You'd still be able to tell the difference because the gray scale is a thing.
Yeah. No. Why is race a meaningful? Why is race a meaningful thing? I honestly don't think it is. Unfortunately, a lot of the world wants to have this conversation. So you can either choose to completely eject yourself out from it, or you can choose to join.
I think there's a bit of pride, and I think there's I think a large part of it is that people don't understand the difference between justice and revenge, and that there's a large part of people who they learn history and they want revenge. They want to call it justice, but it's actually what they really want is they want revenge. They want
vengeance.
To make them whole again.
It's not just revenge, but also the proposition of wanting reparations too for things that happened in the past.
Well, that's the thing
which should be noted not to the person.
I actually have a question about that because that is a relevant topic with this. What is meant by reparations exactly? With
the same thing we sort of do with Native Americans, where we give them like $400. We give them all like $400 a month for taking their land.
Okay, but to what extent?
Which I think we should absolutely stop because.
Uhuru, guys. Uhuru.
Yeah, I didn't know we were doing that. Actually, I'm kind of opposed to that.
Yeah.
They have their own land.
What? But so
Yeah, every Native American who claims status in America gets paid like $440 a month.
And they don't have to pay taxes. They have their own land. I mean, they're living the dream. If they get off the alcohol, they'd be good. You know, they didn't even invent the wheel before we got here.
You should see it in Canada what they're doing for them though. It's they're now whether you agree with it or not, but in my province they're now talking about delaying marijuana legislation because the Native people not to grow it like the Native people want to cut. They want to be able to grow it on their land and get a cut from the profits or whatever.
Oh my god. See, now you're getting in the way of weed. Now they're gonna piss people off.
Yeah, you can't.
Like that's a surefire way to piss people off.
Do that.
Fuck with their weed supply.
I want to say whether it's right or wrong or whether it's realistic or not. I think you have some groups of people who claim to be afraid of losing their culture.
I can understand. Look, I'm going to go back to Oktoberfest and St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
You know, these are things that these are two cultures that originally America. Well, okay, the Germans America originally liked, but they have good reason to hate them now. But they don't. And then the Irish, you know, they arrived here and everybody hated them for about a good 100 years, and now they don't. And now on St. Patty's Day, everybody's Irish.
Wait, you don't hate Irish people anymore?
No, well, I'm not self-hating Irish. There's no such thing.
Oh, you're an orange Irish.
Everyone hates you.
That's what fucking Mrs. O'Leary's cow like.
Hold the fuck up. He is an orange Irishman.
Fuck you, you little green, you Fenian bastard.
You freaking Protestant.
You big fucking Fenian bastard.
Placeholder said, "You're missing the point. Race has no effect on moral relevance."
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't at all.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
There's no race that's innately more moral than another.
No, I think every human has it in them to be a really great or really terrible human being.
Yeah, here's the thing. Every race, ethnicity, ethnic group, whatever have you, has done something fucking horrible.
And something
history.
great.
And something amazing in their history.
Yeah, there have been a lot of great inventions, a lot of great culture coming out of every single race on this planet.
If we're gonna pull,
except the midgets.
If we're gonna pull questions from the chat, Hagbard Celine says, "Here is the real line: Are Slavs human?"
No,
my answer would be barely. But so for a lot of people who out there are sort of scientifically illiterate, we're not actually Homo sapiens anymore. We're Homo sapiens sapiens. So
yes.
the term human in a current colloquial sense would be Homo sapiens sapiens. Now, are Slavs Homo sapiens? Yeah, I mean, yeah. But are they Homo sapiens sapiens? No. So, I mean, I think that would answer your question, Hagbard.
By the way, that means human wise. Because we're stuck up like shit.
But, I do think I'm going to take off. It has been a little bit good. My wife has come up to bed, and I'm annoying her. So
yeah, no, it's great.
I appreciate it, guys. And I obviously, have a good one.
Talk to you later.
Oh, bye.
Excellent. So, do we have more to add to this idea?
Just that humans, we called ourselves wise twice. We have to be the most stuck-up animal on the planet.
Yeah, and so. And yet we all think we're different based on this weird race. It's funny. You'd think that there would be a subcategory if race was actually relevant.
Hold up. Maybe I'm onto something there. Maybe it's because we're so stuck up. We always have to seem that we're superior in some way to other humans.
I do agree that there's a supremacy. There's a pride. I think it goes familial, tribal, and then racial, and then national, and then so forth and so on. Unless you're in Texas, and then it goes state, and then national. But
oh no, it always goes state and then national.
Yeah, no, it actually goes family, state, and then everything else. So, but yeah, I think there's a hierarchy of the things that are the most important to you, the people that you connect with the most, and I think that for most people, family is at the core. And then you move out from there to things like tribe and community, and then Like I think to a very select group of people, throw in things like race and gender, and I think that if we could think about the hierarchical structures of the way that we see each other in maybe a little bit different way, that might be a good start.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
No.
I think it would be a
agree.
great place to start, and I also think like maybe trying to focus on people's individual acts rather than their fucking appearance.
Yeah,
Would
yeah,
probably be also helpful too. Like judging people by the content of the character rather than the color of the skin, like Martin Luther King wanted.
Yeah,
That's racist.
Martin Luther King today will be like the biggest racist in social justice eyes.
Oh my God! At this point, we could
him.
probably make perpetual power off his grave. He's spinning so fast.
Yeah. The activists would be like, "Oh my God, he's marching right beside white people. How dare he?"
Yeah, well, here's the thing: is that a lot of people don't understand this. There were two great migrations during the 20th century, and those two great migrations kind of culminated in the 1960s revolutions, because the first one came from World War I, the second came from World War II. And a lot of these people were chased out of the continent for really good reasons. They came over here and they saw black people being treated differently, and they were like, that's not normal where I'm from. And you had this demographic shift, and then you had the children of those people being born Americans, having the right to vote, putting a bunch of people in place. And by the 1960s, you had a cultural revolution. And a lot of people don't realize that 2/3 of the white people that are here in the United States today came from those two migrations. They weren't here during slavery. They weren't here during Jim Crow. They actually are the white people that came in and overbalanced the scales and got rid of those systems. And I think it's really harmful to smash any race, including white people, including black, green, blue, orange, striped, solid, whatever it is.
Transparent.
And so I think I'm going to go back to one of the first statements that was made on here. Is probably the most powerful, which was when somebody pointed out that any divisive media is going to be bad. And this is probably the biggest problem with race relations today. So,
yeah.
I don't think we're adding a lot of solutions to this brainstorming. Guys, help me out here. How do we solve these problems?
I don't know if there's a magic bullet. It's going to be something that's going to take a lot of fucking time. Probably not even in our lifetime.
We were making such progress, and then the SJWs came along.
Yep. Yeah, I felt like we were making a lot of really great progress.
We were on our way to something really like, oh my God, it was awesome.
And then they came along, and it's everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is problematic, and you have to point it all.
I think the problem is we were making too much progress, and they were realizing that they were soon going to be out of a job.
Oh my god! I'm not going to be a victim anymore. I'm not going to be special enough. My god, no!
I think the issue in that regard is actually more along the lines that we were making progress, but for some people we weren't making progress fast enough. We were at a point where we'd gotten rid of all the legal systems that held people back, right? Or at least a good amount of them. But the time scale ultimately is this will last as long as the old racist class lives, right?
Basically, so do you think that there's a legislative answer to racism?
There was once. I think for the most part we've solved that.
Is it that we weren't moving fast enough, or for them that we weren't going far enough?
I think the issue is despite the fact that we had done so much to deconstruct these actual systemic inequalities by legislation, by Supreme Court decisions. We still had a lot of racist people within the justice system, within work environments. We still have a lot of people that still hold these very old-fashioned values. And for some people, those people aren't dying off fast enough, even though they're growing old and feeble.
Will literally die.
Yeah, our culture changes about as fast as the old guard can die.
Yeah.
On
that highly lively note, I'm here to let you guys know that the Brain Trust is a weekly show here on the Academy Debate channel where we try to solve problems in theory. Join us every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. 9 Central to take part. It's guaranteed to last an hour, and we've made that, so I wanted to let you guys know. You're under no obligation to stay around. You'll all be paid your Denny's bucks. Anyway, go on. Do tell us whatever you were babbling about. I'm sorry. I did interrupt you there. I do also want to kind of say goodnight, though, because I'm getting a little sleepy here.
I pretty much was finished.
I'm not sure how much more headway we can make on this. I really think that it's kind of part of what Egg was saying, that it's a matter of time. I think it's a little bit of I've been watching Tyler for a long time, and I can see him fighting the battles, and I think it's something that we need to come up with solutions for. I think this is I think the beginning, the direction we need to start with is let's start thinking of some solutions. Let's stop shaming Kanye as being crazy. Let's start actually kind of listening to each other, and it might help.
I really don't think listening to Kanye is a smart idea.
I didn't say that. I said stop shaming him for trying to get people to talk to each other.
Can I make fun of him?
Yeah, we could probably make fun of his bad ideas, but as far as him trying to, tell people to have conversations, we shouldn't shame him for that.
No.
Yeah.
Can we shame him for the fact that as soon as he got married, he gave up on looking decent?
Yeah,
sure. Why not?
That's fair game.
David in the chat is saying, I don't think it's racist institutions. I think it's racists in institutions, but it's hard to combat while these people are still holding office. That's kind of the point I was making. It's not so much that we have systemic racism anymore. It's systematic racism.
It's that lingering.
It's that lingering class of racists.
The old guard
that hold office. I agree with you heartily on that. And unfortunately those views seem to be spreading now to a younger class.
So possibly one thing that could help, if I could speak English, that would be fucking great. One thing that could help potentially, maybe term limits, so we don't have people staying in the same position for literally 30 years.
Interesting point that you just brought that up, because there was a tweet the other day about meetings with some freshman lawmakers and discussing just that Trump sent out.
And David is saying that we should be voting out the legitimate racists.
Well. Absolutely. And
I agree.
Should be grounds for immediate dismissal.
Yeah, and I also would like to see that file of everybody who's been paying off hookers and stuff with taxpayer money.
I don't doubt that at all.
I want that one uncovered so we can get those guys out too.
I don't want you to pay for a fucking candy bar with taxpayer money.
Yeah. Well, no. If you use your salary to pay for that candy bar,
your salary, your pay, not
that's
writing it off.
Money. Oh yeah.
No, I mean writing it off as a business expense with taxpayer money.
There was an actual fund where they were paying hush money to sex victims or sex assault victims, and they won't declassify whose names were on it. Yeah. Yeah, it was part of the Me Too thing. If you go and look back, you know, it's funny, the political stuff gets hidden real quick unless it's not true.
If the Me Too movement could get that declassified, I will stop making fun of them. Because that would be, like, amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and say goodnight, guys. And y'all continue the conversation for as long as you want. And hopefully I'll be able to see you guys next Wednesday. Maybe not all of you. But anyway, have a nice night. Good night.
Yeah, let's stop this.